What is this place?
This is Fireproof Shelter 101. We've been here for 10 years in this post-apocalyptic world in what used to be concrete Washington. This is what we've developed to ensure that we stay safe from the weathers of this post-apocalyptic world. This is Fireproof Shelter Construction by Sophia, Fred, Tomas, Max, and Ginger. Our objective was to create shelter that is resistant to fires and can withstand the weather of this world. In order to do that, we needed to develop many different materials and use old materials that we could find in order to make this shelter. This shelter is made completely from recycled materials from the old world before we entered this new life. They're recycled from things like junkyards, houses, old buildings, the old concrete plant in this town, and other things like that. This is how you do it, and this is Fireproof Shelter 101. In order to find materials to make these houses, you need to look for things like junkyards, and these materials like concrete, rock, brick, anything like that, very useful and fireproof for these shelters. We bring these materials up and into our house, which is created using recycled materials. In order to do this, we also use things like car doors to manufacture the doors and have things like, metal harvested, found from old buildings and vehicles that we have located, as well as dumpsters. So this is a dumpster door that we've reinforced to use as a door to protect our house.
It's not catching on fire.
It will not catch on fire because metal is fireproof.
This is an introduction to our manual on how to make a fireproof house. This is the community benefit summary. Keeps out harsh concrete Washington weather, creates safe meeting places for community members, keeps out wildfires, protects from zombies, and creates long-term shelter for our community in this zombie apocalypse. These are the materials that will be used for these safe shelters that are fireproof. Concrete, recycled from other buildings and the junkyard. Brick, recycled from other buildings as well.
That was our zombie alarm.
Stone, foraged from surrounding forest and riverbed. Metal sheets, recycled from old vehicles or dumpsters. And that is it.
This is stabbing my...
The insulation used in these houses is fiberglass. It is a fire-resistant form of insulation and can be recycled from old buildings. This is how we layer our materials to make the walls of the fire-resistant shelter. First, we use a fireproof exterior such as concrete. Then we use the fiberglass insulation, and then a fireproof interior such as brick.
All right.
Go?
Yeah.
Okay. These are the instructions on how to build a fireproof shelter fit for the zombie apocalypse. First, you need to find and collect concrete and steel that can be found in old buildings, junkyards, and cars. So, we're located in Concrete, Washington, which was home to 2 cement plants, which are very useful for finding materials, especially fireproof materials like concrete, steel, aluminum.
They're coming!
And for the foundation, which is the first part on how to build a fireproof shelter, we will use rebar reinforced concrete slabs. This will provide a strong and reliable foundation for the shelter and also serves as a fireproof foundation. For the walls, we will use concrete and flame retardant brick and stone, which serves as a reliable fireproof walls that are fairly easy to build with. The roof will have metal rafters, which will be strong and fireproof, and then the outside part of the roof will be made up of metal shingles and roofing tiles, which will keep off snow, and if somehow a tree that's on fire falls on the roof. And for the doors, we'll be using metal and steel doors that you can find in car doors, and yeah.
Okay, so I'll be going over the specific heat capacity in our manual, which is the property that describes how much heat is needed to raise the temperature of an object. The equation is given right here and is Q equals M times C times the change in T, and all the variables are defined. Next, I will talk about why we chose the materials that we chose based off the heat capacity. A material like wood would be very bad because it has a low heat capacity and would burn easily, but a material like these metal bolts would be very good because it has a high heat capacity and high fire resistance.
All right, this is how we stay safe from the zombies through this apocalypse, okay? So we will remove flammable materials from nearby the shelter, like trees and vegetation. And when we are retrieving the materials, we will have safety precautions for the zombies nearby. And then we need some sort of source of water. And then because of the lack of resources, materials will need to be reused from old buildings and vehicles and stuff like that. Yeah.
We thought this was the best decision we ever made. Or not.